So I'm going to kick off by talking a bit about my background and my experience I've had while I've been on the FLP. So I've been doing the FLP now for just over 3 years. So I joined in July 2014, and I came from a part-time MBA which I was doing at Imperial College. So Imperial College is based in London, and I was doing that MBA part-time while I was working for a small property startup based in London. And in terms of my other educational background, I've also got a master's in occupational psychology, and prior to that, an undergrad in psychology as well. So I have a keen eye for people's personalities and ways of working, and being part of one team within BP. And I took that through to my MBA, and had quite a focus on sort of people and a little bit of a motivation HR focus as well. So let me tell you a bit about my experience of FLP. So firstly, sort of why did I apply for FLP, and what was I looking for? So at the time, I was working for a small startup based in London, as I mentioned, working in a kind of niche sector within the commercial real estate space. And whilst doing my MBA, I sort of really broadened my horizons in terms of other opportunities out there in the market. So beyond what I was doing within property and the sort of vast array of things on offer, having done my MBA. And BP and the FLP scheme came to my attention, and a couple of things really struck me. First of all, I think working within the energy sector, there's no question that it's going to be full of challenges, full of exciting opportunities and constant change. And for me, that was one of the key things that really sort of excited me about applying to work for BP and on the FLP scheme. I think the other thing for me is the scheme offers so many different opportunities, not least potentially the opportunity to work in a different country. But I think also being part of a community really appealed to me. So having that base of people that are doing a similar thing at a similar stage, have similar interests, are as excited as you might be about sort of having a really different and challenging career. And for me, that was something that really appealed. A couple of other things, being offered a mentor, being offered a buddy, and those kind of additional things that just help make your day-to-day a little bit easier, more enjoyable, and also I think really enable you to excel as well within the career path that you've chosen. So, starting from the beginning, I joined BP in July 2014, having just finished my MBA and just completing the last few months of my old firm. And I guess I didn't really know what to expect. From the interviews that I met a lot of really very friendly people at BP. But I was going from a business of 18 people to sort of at about sort of 70,000 or whatever number we are at the moment. And to me, that seemed kind of relatively scary. But what I quickly found and was absolutely thrilled to find was that actually BP is a culture of a very friendly, open, warm people, very relaxed people who are just there to see you excel, see you enjoying yourself and having a really good time and making a success of the role that you're doing. And so I immediately kind of felt part of this family, which is great, a really good start for me. So my first role was in Castrol, so that's within our lubricants business, based in Pangbourne, which is one of our major technology centres across the globe, and our Castrol Technology Centre within the UK. It's just outside of London, about 45 minutes outside of central London. It's a beautiful site. It really is. It's hard to describe quite how nice it is. You're in the middle of the countryside, but at the epicenter of all the technology and product development within the Castrol business. And my role there was marketing manager as part of the industrial marketing team. So in terms of what that meant, so the industrial marketing team essentially is developing campaigns and materials to help promote the products that we sell into the industrial businesses. So, for example, products that are serving VW, the likes of VW or other car manufacturers, enabling them to develop the bits and pieces that basically go into making up a car. And other businesses we might serve would be Vestas, so wind farms and other wind development areas as well. And in terms of the day-to-day and what I was doing, I had a sort of vast array of responsibilities, but the role at the time was very kind of marketing operational focus. So thinking about what products we wanted to develop, what was our sort of product map and product plan for the future, what was the viability of developing that product, how did that fit a customer need, a specific customer need, and how could we as a business really kind of make that happen and deliver that to a customer. And the role was much about sort of working with our technology team, so making assessments about what products we wanted to deliver to customers, how we might deliver those. So working with our supply chain, for example, working with our product line management teams about how to best manage our product portfolios and looking at optimizing those product portfolios. And then really, how are we going to deliver those products? What we're going to say to customers? How are we going to say it? And working with our sales teams to really draw in some key insights about what our customers were looking for and therefore how best to communicate to the customers. Another key element of my role in terms of being operational was that we were going through a massive change at the time. I think one of the biggest changes that Castor has probably seen in terms of its product portfolio in the last sort of 5 to 10 years. We really rationalised our portfolio in terms of brands and products, and changed the way we wanted to communicate to our customers about the products that we are producing and developing and delivering to them. And in that, I did a vast array of really, really interesting projects. I led a number of teams to help make those changes from an operational perspective. I developed a number of marketing toolkits, so working very closely with our sales teams to understand how customers viewed our product portfolio, how they viewed our communications, and how they wanted to be communicated to as well. So looking at kind of changing the pace of how we're communicating and really making sure that we're very focused on digital at the time. And that's been a key pillar for us within Castor and marketing for the last 5 or so years. And at the time, it was a real focus for us with industrial in terms of bringing all the communications to have much more of a digital focus than they did at the time. So that was a really, really interesting role. I worked with a vast array of different areas of the business. And one thing I can certainly say is when you start your first role, you're absolutely thrown at the deep end. And I think it's the best way to learn. I had to learn quickly. I had to sort of reach out to different members of the team, not just within my local team, within my site, but completely globally. So very, very infrequently would I have a day where I only spoke to people in the office. I had many phone calls with our Vietnam team or with people based in the US or completely globally. And that's something that I think you recognize when you go into your first role, is that BP is just so global. And that's fab, because you really get to understand other elements of the business, how different cultures work and how different parts of BP work very quickly, because you spend time talking and discussing topics and challenges and building up solutions with different people across the globe. And for me, that was a really, really good learning curve. So I spent 18 months doing that role. And then in terms of then pivoting into my next role, I had a couple of different options in front of me. But I think the most important thing for me at the time was really thinking about focusing on my development plan. So you have a couple of choices. So as Corinne mentioned, you can, for your second role, look at doing that in a different country, obviously based on business need at the time. And I had a few options. There were a couple of other roles that were based in other countries. But actually, those roles didn't really fit with my development plan at the time. And so I actually chose to do a role based in the UK again. I would have liked to have done something abroad, but actually, as I said, it really did make sense for me to kind of think logically and say to myself, right, what am I looking at doing in the future? What's my plan? And what's going to be what's going to give me the most benefit? How am I going to stretch myself in terms of that next role? Am I making the right stepping stones to make sure that I sort of meet that end goal and develop my career anchor? And for me, my career anchor was very much in marketing. So the next step for me was to really do a brand role, so less of an operational role, but more of a sort of campaign asset development role. And so that's what I chose to do, or that's what I applied for, and the next role that I got. And so that brand activation manager role, which I've been doing now for nearly 20 months, has been based in one of our other UK offices, so in Swindon. So Swindon, for those of you who don't know, is about another hour further outside of London, still not too far. It's where we have one of our core Castrol offices based in the UK. So in terms of this role, it's pretty different to my operationally led role. And actually at the time, in between those two roles, we sort of restructured the way that the marketing operations work. So my role is very much about deployment. So that's deployment of brand campaigns, that's deployment of our marketing plan, that's deployment of any kind of product portfolio launches as well. So this role at the moment is very European focused. So I work with all of our European countries. And my role covers a couple of different areas. So it covers any brand activation for our motorcycle oils. for our industrial part of our business, for any private label we might do. And I also cover a couple of other big projects at the moment. So we're doing a big brand change project within the European team. And we're also looking at a new opportunity where we're going to focus on delivering a new range of products to a new specific niche target market. So it's really varied, which is great, and something that I think you really benefit from when you're an FLP, because people in the business see you as an FLP, they think you're more likely to want to absorb new opportunities and new projects. And that's absolutely the way it's worked for me so far, and certainly in this role I've had some great variety. So within the role, again, I'm interacting with other parts of the business. So I do lots of projects with our supply chain, lots of projects with our sales teams, working with our product line management teams, etc. And in terms of the day-to-day, there's a small element which is operational, so helping to make sure that our countries are selling the correct products within their marketplace, helping to make sure that they have all the right materials they want to activate. But there's also the more creative side as well. So I'm looking at new opportunities to develop new materials to help enhance our partnership relationships, looking at how we can deliver on new KPIs that have been set across the wider marketing team. And then I mentioned I've been working on this really interesting project where we've been focusing on a new niche target market and looking at what products and communications we can develop to really focus ourselves on delivering a new opportunity within that space. So much of that project has been about working with research agencies, doing some research myself, going out and doing interviews, for example, with customers, getting insights and developing those into a new proposition and a new offer. And that's, for me, been a really, really exciting project and not something I was expecting in this role. So a really nice element, I think, for me to sort of take on. So as I've said, I've had two quite different roles, both within marketing, but one global, one European, and you do get a really different perspective when you're looking at a global level and then when you're looking at more of a European deployment level. And I think that's something that I wanted to make sure that I had some definition between what I was doing in my first role versus my second role. And I think particularly because I decided to stay in country, it made sense that those two were quite well defined. I'm now at the stage where I'm looking for my final role that I plan to go into when I will then graduate from my FLP. And I can tell you that I've done really good stead from doing the FLP. I've been able to use the FLP as a place to sort of leverage that across the business as an opportunity to network with people that maybe you wouldn't get the opportunity to otherwise. Also through the various events that FLP run, you get to meet different people across the business that perhaps you wouldn't if you were just normally within BP. And so I'm going to really make sure that my next role is then linking back into that career anchor that I'm developing within marketing, and also really leveraging all the soft skills that I've developed and the opportunities that I've had within these two roles. One last thing, I guess, just to mention is the experience that I already had before I joined BP. So as I mentioned, I was working for a small startup based in London, focusing on commercial real estate. My role was more or less focused on delivering the marketing and business development perspective of that business. So I had marketing and business development experience, but I hadn't worked in oil and gas before, and I can tell you that, as Corinne mentioned, that hasn't impacted my experience at all. Actually, it's been great. It's been great to come from a completely different angle, a different perspective, having not spent time in oil and gas, and really being able to absorb everything that's happening within the wider business and apply the skills and experience that I had from my last role into what I'm doing now. And there's always opportunity to do that. And I think certainly as well with your masters, whether that's MBA or masters in science, let's say, there's always opportunity to apply what you've learned into your role. You get given lots of space and opportunity to bring in your skills and really stretch yourself, I think, as well within your FLP roles. And that's very much encouraged and supported by the FLP community as well. One last thing I just want to mention about my experience on FLP, that's about the community that we've built, or that's been built with the HR team, but also with the other people that are on the community as well. We're really lucky to have the community within the BP business because, as you know, it's a vast business. And whilst we have a great culture of everybody being very friendly and helpful, having that sort of inner circle of people that are on the same page as you, with the same goals, the same aspirations. It's just, it goes an absolutely long way. There's always somebody within the FLP community who's in a similar situation to you in terms of, maybe looking to go from their first role to their second role, or even graduating. But also just in terms of learning, so where along with the learning program that's offered with FLP, there's always someone else you can buddy up with to spend time to help you work through those learning modules, and also make sure that you're sort of achieving the various things along the learning timeline. So the community is absolutely second to none, and for me, I've had a really great experience with FLP, and I'll be sad to graduate.